Well, hello and welcome to COS Live, everyone. I am Rita Peters, and I'm going to be your solo host today because unfortunately my co-host Andrew is just a little bit under the weather. So hopefully we'll see him back here next week. But we've still got an exciting show for you. We will be interviewing a leader with the Convention of States New Jersey team and talking to him about how he uncovered some explosive audio from President Ronald Reagan. It's all about whether the former president supported an Article 5 convention, and you are not going to want to miss it. We will play a clip from that audio, and Gary will tell us an inspiring story about how he searched for this until he found it. It's pretty neat. But first, we're going to do our Article 5 trivia giveaway with Mike Ruthenberg. Mike?
It is so fun to be talking about a legacy that was started so long ago by our 40th president. And that might even be what we talk about in our trivia question of the day. I'm really glad that you guys are going to have an opportunity to meet with Gary Brenner. You'll love him if you haven't met him before. He's our grassroots media director. He's going to help us to get the word out, to reach into every single corner of America. So stay tuned while for this show. In the meantime, let me give something away. Maybe it's a Think Outside the Swamp shirt that you want. We're going to give away one of our t-shirts to whoever can answer this question first. So have your fingers poised on the keyboard to put in the comments. Maybe you want our I Will Not Comply to the Will of Tyrants shirt. What a cool shirt. I'm not holding it up very well, but that's it. And maybe you want to keep your Second Amendment rights, and you want to say hell no, Joe, to the ban and control of our firearms, and you believe that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So you can choose your t-shirt. Just go to shopconventionestates.com. You can get one right now. And if you're the winner, we'll send you one at no cost. So now let's jump to trivia. And today's program is about, as I mentioned earlier, the 40th president's support for Convention of States. But did you know that there was another 20th century president who is also on record as supporting an Article 5 convention? If your history isn't so wonderful, if you don't have all the president numbers, we all know who 45 is, I would guess, but 40 is Ronald Reagan. And so my question for today is, besides Ronald Reagan, who was the other president who voted his support, or should say voiced, he didn't vote, but he voiced his support for an Article 5 Convention of States? And when we get back, I'll tell you the answer, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you, Mike. Now, before we get to our interview, we've got a few news items. First of all, you asked and we answered. We are pleased to announce that you can now listen to this program in podcast form. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Amazon Music. That's right, we have converted COS Live and Mark Meckler's Battle Cry to these audio-only formats so that you can listen more conveniently in your home, in your car, or wherever you are. We will also be sprinkling in some legacy audio from COS, such as speeches from our 2019 summit, clips from the 2016 simulated convention, and other surprises. To find out more, you can visit conventionofstates.com/pod or search Convention of States wherever you podcast from. And don't forget to leave us your 5-star review and help our show to grow that way. It's a great way to spread the word about COS and get more people involved. Now we've got a little news update from Convention of States, South Carolina. So check out this video.
I will not just sit around as my country is destroyed. I will stand up for all I love and hold dear. I will stand up for America. Thomas Jefferson once said, How little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of which no other people enjoy. Americans do not know how good they have it. And I'm afraid that if we do nothing to fight the growing federal government, we will soon find out how good we had it. We need to put an end to this tyranny before it is too late to save our beautiful country. Convention of States is a shimmer of hope in all this darkness.
The country's falling apart. I think the government has way too much power, and I think COS is one of the few things we can still do to stop it before it's too late. So anything I can do to help to save the country.
I believe that there are many good people out there who want to do something to help but don't know what that something is. The answer is COS. By limiting the power of the federal government, establishing term limits, and requiring federal fiscal responsibility, we can finally put up a boundary to this parasite's never-ending power. We can still save America, but we have to act now.
As amended, roll call is required. Voting on the board's order.
You may want to consider this. If not Convention of States, what can we do to stop this tyranny? COS may be our last hope at evolution.
All right, well, back to our main topic tonight. Newly discovered audio from President Ronald Reagan confirms he was a passionate advocate for an Article 5 Convention of States to rein in federal power. You probably already know that President Reagan supported the state proposed amending process, which is outlined in Article 5 of the Constitution, what we know today as a Convention of States. We have highlighted his comments about the Article 5 process in the past, but we've recently uncovered an audio recording of the Gipper discussing the Convention of States option. And we want to bring on the person who uncovered that tape. Well, now we get to welcome today's guest, who is Gary Brenner. And Gary is the media liaison for Convention of States, New Jersey. Gary, thanks for being with us on the show today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, we've long known that President Ronald Reagan was an advocate for an Article 5 convention, particularly with an eye on getting some fiscal restraint on the federal government. We've had letters that he's written and so on, but now we have this explosive audio. Gary, tell us how you found the audio.
Well, it's a bit of a long story. I'll try to make it short and concise. When I got started with Convention of States, I almost immediately saw another video that was produced by someone in Convention of States. I'm not sure who it was, but and many of the viewers have probably seen it themselves. It's the quotes, historical quotes about Article 5 from some of the framers and from Abraham Lincoln, President Eisenhower, and President Reagan. So that fascinated me when I saw this video, and it's the one where the quotes come on rolling on screen and then they roll off screen, and there's piano music playing in the background. And as I say, it fascinated me, and I wanted to learn more about these quotes. So I did my own research, and about the quote from President Reagan, I found out that was part of a series of pre-recorded radio addresses that he gave in between when he was governor of California and before he was president of the United States. And these were like early podcasts. They were pre-recorded and then syndicated for playing on radio stations across the country. And this recording that we have now was part of that. So I kept checking and digging into it, and I said to myself, maybe this recording is still around somewhere, and maybe we can get it. So I checked with 3 people wrote a book about President Reagan's writings throughout his life, including these these pre-recorded radio casts. And they also commercially produced a recording set of these speeches that he gave, including radio addresses. So I pursued that, and that turned out to be a dead end. I couldn't get hold of one of the people that produced these recordings commercially. But then I figured maybe the President Reagan Library and Museum in California has the recording. So I pursued that, and eventually I got a hold of one of the archivists there, and by email. And he said to me, "We should have this. It's in the index of our holdings." That's the good news. The bad news is, and this was last December of 2020. The bad news is we're shutting down today for this foreseeable future because of the pandemic. And I said, "Oh no." So he said, but seek permission from this administrator. You have to get this administrator's permission to get the recording once we reopen. So that's what I did. I wrote to the administrator, and eventually she started replying to me and gave the okay. And they reopened like around the 1st of July this year. And so when the archivist got back in, he got the recording out and he mailed it to me. And by the way, I want to give thanks to Monica Sellers, our regional director here in this part of the country. She helped me with this, with giving me advice on how to communicate with them without being too much of a pest, but also to kind of prompt them to help us with this request. So Monica gets a lot of credit for this also. I don't do anything here in Convention of States by myself. I always have tremendous support from various parts of Convention of States.
Well, Gary, thank you for your persistence. That is just amazing. And let's go ahead now and play an excerpt from that audio.
With Congress back in session and memories of the '78 election still fresh, we're going to hear a lot about the process of amending the Constitution. Several states in the '78 election, helped by a National Committee on Tax Limitation, had ballot measures calling for a percentage limit on the amount of earnings the state could take in taxes. Most of these passed. Now a total of 25 state legislatures have passed resolutions calling for a constitutional amendment to end federal deficit spending. And in Washington, the National Tax Limitation Committee, made up of business people and such noted economists as Nobel laureate Milton Friedman, has unveiled a proposed constitutional amendment to control government spending as an alternative to requiring a balanced budget. I hope we won't lose sight of the main target in a debate over which route we take to amend the Constitution. Some want to call a constitutional convention. Others want to go the legislative way, with Congress passing an amendment to then be ratified by the states. The Constitution provides for both methods, and the convention is a safety valve giving the people a chance to act if Congress refuses to.
What a great audio clip that is. I'm so glad it's not just sitting in an archive somewhere. Now, our Article 5 resolution allows for proposals on term limits, limits on federal overreach, and fiscal restraints on Washington. A balanced budget amendment or an amendment that limits federal taxation and federal spending would certainly fall under that fiscal restraint section. Gary, can you imagine if the states would have heeded Reagan's advice, how much better off we would be today as a nation?
Yes, I can imagine that. Try as I do to imagine it, it would be so great. Obviously, our nation needs the states now to take back power from the federal government because obviously power has centralized. It's such a, I think we in Convention of States can see this so clearly. That's the center of the problem, is power has centralized. So obviously, central to the solution is taking back that power that this Constitution gives to the states respectively or to the people.
Absolutely. And, what I think is amazing about this audio clip is that Reagan deftly responds to the runaway convention myth. He says, and I quote, "In my view, those who warn of this show little faith in our democratic procedures. The Constitution provides for both methods, and the convention is a safety valve, giving the people a chance to act if Congress refuses to," end quote. So there you have it. He points out that this is a legitimate constitutional process for exactly such a time as we are in today. When you talk about Article 5 Convention of States with people in New Jersey, Gary, how do they respond?
Yeah, there's a lot of positive response here in New Jersey for the Article 5 Convention. And I would like to say, this is part of why we called President Reagan the great communicator. It illustrates this so perfectly. It's our responsibility to listen to that. That's, communication is a two-way street. You have to listen also. And the people in New Jersey are listening, I think, to a good extent, and they're listening better and better as we encourage them and educate them about this. We have a tremendous team here in New Jersey doing that. We're actually moving the state of New Jersey in the right direction towards using the Article 5 Convention. This is as everyone knows, this is one of the blue states, so to speak, but we are actually moving them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that your New Jersey team is so active. I'm always encouraged when I hear about all the things you're doing. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you had a big event out there a couple of weeks ago with Mark Meckler. Can you share what happened and what were your takeaways from that?
I want to take the liberty here to give due credit to our New Jersey team. But one of my biggest challenges is keeping up with our New Jersey team now. And they're just amazing. This event, we started planning months ago, this COS festival, or we call it COS Fest, which we actually held it on June 19th. I believe it was the day before Father's Day, here in New Jersey, smack in the middle of New Jersey. It was a tremendous event. The planning made this, largely made this event what it was, and the planning was thorough. It was meticulous, methodical. The team, individual members, just jumped in with their special, unique gifts and talents right where they were needed, for organizing, logistics, coming up with the right contacts, finding a tremendous venue with a gracious, generous host, which was a beautiful modern church in New Jersey. The pastor there was just wonderful and opened up his facility for us, which was modern and new and state-of-the-art sound system, for example, and lighting. What a great surprise that was to me, how this whole thing came together, from decorating the whole venue inside and then outdoors. We had multiple tents set up with tables and printed lit available for people to come and take and look at. The program as it was planned out, with the opening remarks, the Pledge of Allegiance, the panel discussion moderated very, very well, expertly by our coalition's director. Then our A1 top of the line keynote speaker, Mark Meckler, came from Texas to be with us and top off the event. And there was over 200 people there in attendance. Filled every seat inside the main room there. People were standing out in the lobby also to watch. So it was terrific. It was really terrific.
Well, that is just inspiring. Thanks for sharing that. And you hit on something in that answer that is so important, that it really takes everyone, each individual, wherever they are, whatever their background and skill set is, getting involved, because America was created to be a nation of self-governing citizens. And that's what we are all about here at COS. So Gary, tell us your personal story about how you found out about COS and why you donate your time, talent, and treasure to this movement.
Sure. Well, going back just before that, I was never active in politics myself, other than voting. That's just who I was. But I was always politically aware and politically concerned. I listened to the news. I listened to a number of talk radio hosts, and one of them, Mark Levin, around 2015, I started hearing him talk about the Article 5 Convention and Convention of States. And I clearly have a memory of this clicking in me on how this made great sense, how positive and hopeful it sounded, and how I felt I could fit in here finally and get involved in the governing issues of the country, my country. So, I'm not one to just take anyone's word for things. I'm a bit of a skeptic. So I started checking on my own to kind of confirm what I was hearing, researching for myself, and I was finding all the same things that I was hearing from Mark Levin. I started checking out Convention of States as well. And everything, what I was hearing matched what I was finding independently about what Article 5 said, what some of the framers of the Constitution said about it. So I got involved at that point. I reached out, I signed the petition, I started going to local meetings, monthly local meetings in North Jersey here, which we held for, I think, over 5 years straight. And I continued going to those meetings for those 5 years regularly, getting more and more involved. And eventually I took on the district captain position and started, getting better and better at that and working at that. And about a year after that, I also took on the media liaison position, and put a lot of effort into getting better and better at that, because I had no experience in media, virtually no experience before that. And so that's really kind of how I got into this. And it's really been life-changing, just to say, for me. It's been such an amazing experience and such a growth experience for me. I'm just grateful to have had this opportunity.
Well, your story certainly resonates with me, Gary, because my reasons for getting involved with COS have been very similar. I wanted to be a part of a positive, constructive solution to the crisis that we see our country in today. And I, after doing my research and my homework like you did, found that Convention of States was a constitutional, logical, legal, meaningful solution to the problems that we're facing today. So before we let you go, Gary, can you just tell our viewers or listeners who maybe are in New Jersey, how can they get involved and help the COS New Jersey team today?
Sure. I would say go to the Convention of States website. That's conventionofstates.com. You should see the first thing you should see is the petition, assuming you're not already logged in to the website, and then fill out the petition and click that button that says, I believe it says send to your legislatures, which will automatically generate an email to your 3 state lawmakers that you support this and you want them to support it. And that petition will also get you connected with Convention of States so that we can reach out to you, start talking with you and develop a connection with you and try to help you see where you fit into Convention of States. There's many, many different roles that you can choose from, and there's almost certainly a role that fits your unique skills and talents to fit your schedule. So please do pursue that. Join this movement and help save our nation, your nation, for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for the future. This is so important, but it's based on getting involved actively. Please do that.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, thank you so much for being with us today on the program.
You're very welcome, and thank you again for having me.
And now we will go back to Mike Ruthenberg for our Article 5 trivia answer. Mike?
It is time to give away the answer to our Article 5 trivia question for today. And as you know, the 40th President of the United States, especially if you were listening earlier, was Ronald Reagan. And the question of the day was, besides Ronald Reagan, our 40th president, who was the other U.S. president who voiced support for an Article 5 Convention of States? And the winner of knowing that question was going to get either a Think Outside the Swamp shirt, maybe a Hell No Joe shirt, or maybe a We Will Not Comply, I Will Not Comply with the Will of Tyrants, or one of the many other shirts we have in the store. If you win, awesome. If not, just go to shopconventionestates.com and you can get your own right now. They'll ship out within 12 hours and you'll be ready to wear. And it's amazing. People come up to you and they'll talk to you about Convention of States all over the place. It's great to have these shirts on. So here's the answer. Again, the question, besides Ronald Reagan, who was the other U.S. president who voiced his support for an Article 5 Convention of States? And the answer is Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower voiced his support for an Article 5 Convention of States specifically to propose term limits on members of Congress. We actually have a Term Limits Now t-shirt. How about that? Here's what he said. Through their state legislatures and without regard to the federal government, the people can adopt such amendments as will reverse any trends they see as fatal to true representative government. If you and your generation, with the spirit of our founders, decide that reformation of a radical kind becomes due, then I say, let nothing stop you. And that's what Article 5 is all about. And that's what Eisenhower supported. That is what Ronald Reagan supported. We know 45 is a big fan of taking power away from the federal government. And we all know that we're endorsed by 5 presidential candidates as well in our past. And now's the time to keep working, keep bringing those people in, because when we get the millions of people more on board that we need, I'm sure we're going to bring Article 5 Convention of States to fruition, not to mention many other good things that you guys are working on.
Well, everyone, that wraps up our program for today. So as we close, I want to remind you that America needs you off the couch and in the fight. We can't afford to wait 2 or 4 years for the next election. The founders expected us to be engaged in the day-to-day fight for freedom. That's why Convention of States has designed over a dozen different volunteer roles for you to jump in with your personal talents and interests, whatever your background and skills are. One of those roles is called a social media warrior. We welcome new applicants who are committed to reach, teach, and activate their fellow Americans by leaving relevant comments on blogs, social media posts, and online publications. These social media warriors are on the cutting edge of protecting the Convention of States narrative online and have been known to shut down strong opponents. We'll give you all the training you need and plug you into a community that engages in weekly missions to spread the word about the only solution as big as the problem. And of course, you do all this from the comfort of your own home. If you'd like to learn more, go to www.conventionofstates.com and click the Take Action tab to get started. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble, MeWe, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, and Instagram. You can also text the word START to 54555 to bypass big tech and make sure you receive important news and messages from COS. Check out the Battle Cry with COS President Mark Meckler Sunday nights at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, tune in for a special edition of COS Live. The Convention of State Staff is holding a planning meeting in Colorado, and we want to take you behind the scenes with everyone in person. Remember, if you're looking for the person who is going to restore our republic, hold up a mirror. Thank you for watching.